Good morning, everyone. Or afternoon, I should say. I shouldn't just say good morning. Welcome to this week's Inside the Text. I'm Pastor Lydia. Sorry about the little wobble. My laptop is on my lap, and every time I move, I forget that I need to sit as still as possible right now. This week's Inside the Text, we are diving into the gospel reading for this coming Sunday, November 2nd, and the text is from Luke chapter 6, verses 20 to 31. It's the very famous, very familiar Sermon on the Plain. Many people are like, wait a minute, isn't it Sermon on the Mount? And the Sermon on the Mount happens in the Gospel of Matthew, but in the Gospel of Luke, this sermon, the Beatitudes, is given on a plain, on a level field in a grassy area. And so it's very familiar for many of us. And today in Inside the Text, we're going to explore not so much the gospel itself, but why it might be used for All Saints' Day, and why we think it might be picked for such a high holy day and a festival honoring all of the saints who have gone before us and had such a powerful influence in our lives. But before we dive in, I just want to invite you to center yourself, ground yourself, light a candle if you would like to, and make yourself open to what God is stirring within you, what God is stirring in your body, your mind, your spirit, as you explore the history a little bit of All Saints' Day and this gospel text. So just take a moment and ground yourself. And then I will begin by reading from the Gospel of Luke, and we will be on our way. Here we go. From the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6. I almost said chapter 20, but it's chapter 6, verse 20. Here we go. Then Jesus looked up at his disciples and said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you and when they exclude you, revile you, and defame you, on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice on that day and leap for joy, for surely your reward is great in heaven, for that is how their ancestors treated the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you will be hungry. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all speak well of you, for that is how their ancestors treated the false prophets. But I say to you who are listening, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also, and from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who asks of you, and if anyone takes away what is yours, do not ask for it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you." Here ends our reading for this coming Sunday. And I'm going to dive into a bit of the history of All Saints' Day specifically, and what it used to be called and why it's tied to this time of the year, and a little bit about the evolution of trick-or-treating, or what it was used to be known as, which was called souling, S-O-U-L-I-N-G, so like our souls. The children went souling. And so I want to tie that in a little bit and explore why the Beatitudes might be chosen for this coming Sunday. So first, just a broad overview, of what All Saints' Day is, in fact. Each year, Christians around the world celebrate All Saints' Day, and it's actually November 1st. So All Saints Sunday, it typically falls November 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Obviously, it could even be like November 6th, but it's the first Sunday of November is All Saints Sunday. That's the day we honor the saints in worship. So each year, Christians around the world celebrate All Saints' Day on November 1st, which is to praise saints and martyrs, known and unknown, for their exceptional deeds and acts of faith that they performed in their life. And All Saints' Day is most notably observed through a variety of ways, and it can be praying, feasting, as well as other festivities. Think about our neighbors to the south in Mexico, especially, who celebrate El Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. Those are big festivals and feasts and celebrations and ways to honor and remember those people who have passed on who are really important to them. Baptisms are often performed on this day as well. I know some churches not only honor and name those who have passed away in the last year, but they also honor and name all of those who've been baptized in the last year. And this celebration reminds us that All Saints, while we do cling to and hold and honor, especially those who have passed on and are no longer with us physically present here on earth, we sometimes get so focused on that we forget All Saints is actually a way to not only honor the saints that have passed, but also to honor the work that God is still doing among the living today. And so that's why baptisms are celebrated on this day too. And some denominations even provide candles and flowers or offering of simple prayers placed on grave markers if they go to cemeteries or other places where loved ones are laid to rest. And we celebrate it, again, to recognize the faithfulness of people in our lives and the incredible examples of faith that they have given us, and the incredible ways that they have lived out their call to love others, to love God, as well as to continue to honor the work God is still doing among all of us. And a little bit of the history, actually, of All Saints is that back in the 600s, so 7th century, 600s, long time ago, All Saints was actually observed in May because the Pope at the time had blessed and consecrated, set apart the Pantheon, which was a special set of buildings, for Virgin Mary and for all martyrs. So initially, All Saints was really focused on the martyrs of the early church and the Christian faith. However, by the 700s, that changes. In the 700s, Pope Gregory III changes the celebration of All Saints' Day from May to November. And the reason that changes is because he blesses and sets apart a special chapel within the Basilica of St. Peter, which is the massive cathedral in Rome. And on November 1st, he sets that aside and blesses it in honor of all of the saints, past, present, and future. So anyone who has been sainted or will be sainted, that is Saints' Chapel. And so that's why, to him, it made sense that they would then have All Saints' Day in November. And that tradition just kind of continues for a long time. And then in the next century, in the 800s, the next Pope Greg, well, not the next one, but then another Pope Gregory IV, sets out a mandate for the entire church. So anyone in the church, in the entire world, the church universal, is mandated to celebrate All Saints' Day as a high holy day. So that's when it really becomes something that everyone is honoring and celebrating. So that's kind of like the really early history of All Saints. It started out as a focus on martyrs, and then it becomes an honoring of all of the saints. And then we get a little bit more shifting and movement as we figure out how All Saints' Day is now connected to Halloween, because traditionally, centuries ago, and even for some people today, especially in the Orthodox Church, All Saints' Day is actually called All Hallows' Day, And therefore, the night before All Hallows Day was All Hallows Eve. Halloween, All Hallows Eve. Because hallow is actually a word for a saint or a holy person. So it would have been All Saints' Day or All Holy Day, and All Hallows Eve would have been Evening of Saints or Evening of Holy People. And this is kind of where we are like, okay, but what about costumes? What about trick-or-treating? Like, how did we get there? Here's where this comes in. Remember I mentioned at the intro, souling, S-O-U-L-I-N-G, was done on All Souls Day. It was when children would go knock on doors of their neighbors and offer to pray for family members who had passed away in exchange for like what is called soul's cake, a baked good, a little sweet treat. And the idea back then was that these children were praying for ancestors and family members who'd passed away who were in purgatory, and were trying to get to heaven. And so these children were doing an act of prayer for these family members, these loved ones, to get them out of purgatory. And obviously, with the schism and the divide and the Reformation, different theologies and different understandings of living and dead and heaven and hell and purgatory came about. And so we have moved a really long way from souling and soul cakes, those little baked goods that were made for those children, to what we have, which is trick-or-treating in many parts of the world. However, in Portugal and in the Philippines, there are still practices of souling that happen, which is lovely and beautiful and a way for community to come together, which is what I also want to emphasize with Halloween, because there are very few festivities, holidays, moments in time, especially in our culture, that is so intergenerational and community-oriented and neighborhood building. Because when else do strangers give a gift, a sweet gift to children who are strangers? When else do people come together to celebrate and have fun and be joyful and silly and embrace the levity that comes with Halloween? It's not very often. And it's a beautiful example of our call to love our neighbors and to love people and treat people as we would want to be treated. Halloween brings people together in some really powerful ways. And I encourage you, as you go into the weekend, to be open to this idea that All Hallows Eve has a long-standing tradition of faith and love of neighbor and community care. And that it's not just about kids being silly or marauding teenagers or even the embrace of the macabre and the gruesome. It's about community. And it always has been. So let's remember that and think about why the Beatitudes then are chosen for All Saints, because what better way to love our neighbors and to treat others as we would want to be treated than to embrace literally our neighbors and the strangers coming to our doors and give a gift and ask nothing in return. Ask nothing in return. What better way? And so I leave you with those thoughts as we journey towards this weekend and All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day and All Saints Sunday. And I look forward to seeing you in person or online this coming Sunday in worship.